All right, so let's go into Battlefield 6. So, Crush, you put this in here because of the massive new Season 1 updates that they're doing.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, this is a huge thing because they're actually doing... They're releasing, I think, relatively early something to compete directly against the free-to-play version of Call of Duty, right? And so
Warzone, right?
Warzone, right? And it's called Red Sec. It's like 46 players with duos and quads. Like, supposedly the map is a little bit uninspired, but overall, like the gameplay is solid, and they've done a good job of replicating that experience. But I don't know, the question that came up a lot was like, this seems a little early, right? Like to go free-to-play, like they're still in premium mode, right? Like trying to sell fucking copies at full price, right? Now the free-to-play version is out, and I think I'm just kind of the same idea that they're just going, full boat and just trying to compete head-to-head against Call of Duty and to build that momentum to take share away from Call of Duty. Of course, Call of Duty at the same time offered another free week right, during this release.
I saw that with the current version, right? With the 6.
Yeah, and again, because Call of Duty is coming out so late, like this is what the only thing they have to do. Usually Call of Duty should be coming out next week, right? Which would have been perfect to compete against it, but they have another week or so after that.
2 weeks. Yeah, I think it's like the 14th or something.
Yeah, 14th, 19th.
And so if we as an industry
around there, I just remember that Adam wants to come on the podcast after it launches so he can talk about it with Phil.
But so far, so good with Battlefield. I mean, I think they're executing very well. The fact that they got this out so quickly is amazing, and the fact that they haven't had any technical challenges. So we'll see. What are you thinking, Phil, on this?
Well, first of all, we need to give a standing ovation to Dice and Vince for shipping a free-to-play Battle Royale mode in Season 1.
Yeah.
I mean, that is an incredible achievement inside of EA. I don't think people understand how hard that is. And launching this in Season 1 while they're still having all the marketing push, they still have all the momentum is also brilliant. You remember there was Firestorm in Battlefield 5, which was the last attempt at Battle Royale, and they took some of those mechanics from Firestorm and integrated them into RedSec. So you have that closing circle of fire that explodes all the shit as it starts to come in using the Dice engine.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, and it has
I
it
has
see
100, that, dude.
And it has 100 players, by the way, not just the 46 and duos and quads. You actually can't really do solo queue, which is a huge problem. It has a lot of the respawn mechanics we've seen in Warzone. This is the right strategy, right? There's the thing that I think Vince and team get the most amount of credit for is absolutely zero innovation. I cannot credit them enough. And I'm not being sarcastic. Like, they have taken Call of Duty's template and they basically copied it onto Battlefield. And one of the things you talk a lot about, Eric, is this Western problem of trying to figure out gameplay-based monetization. And one of the things that they have is they were able to copy blueprints from Call of Duty. This is one of the ways Call of Duty has kind of snuck in power progression. I wouldn't call it power progression, but gameplay, it's horizontal, where you buy a pre-progressed weapon. So in these games, you're playing, you're leveling up your accounts, you're leveling up a bunch of different things. One of the things you're leveling up is your gun. And as you level up your gun, you unlock attachments. And so what a blueprint does is it basically just has those attachments already in the weapon. It's basically almost like a little bit of it's not an XP boost, but it usually just kind of pre-progresses you a little bit. And you combine that with a cosmetic, it's a blueprint. They ran the same playbook here in terms of attachments. In fact, they improved it a little bit by having points instead of saying, oh, there's only like 6 or 7 attachments you can have. Now you have 100 points, which gives you a lot more system design space to say, oh, this attachment's a little more powerful. We're going to increase the amount of attachment points it costs. So they literally just copied that model, which is also cheap to run from a supply side perspective. And not only that, the other thing that they've copied is the Black Cell Pass. So this is one of the ways that Call of Duty has increased their ARPU on their Battle Pass, rather than just being, $10 every 2 to 3 months. Hey, let's sell you another $30 upsell, which has even more content. So they have copied that and what they're calling Battlefield Pro, which is essentially the Black Cell Pass, but with a little bit more choice. So what you're able to do in the Black Cell Pass is it's non-linear, and you can choose one of these, we call it tracks. And then once you're done with one of the tracks, you can select one of the other tracks. And so this is another $30 upsell. So they finally have a monetization model in Battlefield that makes sense. And you know what it is? Control-C, Control-V Call of Duty, which is exactly what they should have done from the beginning. Like, this is about getting the franchise back to being a consistent, real competitor to Call of Duty. And this was a brilliant way to do it. No innovation, just go out and run the fucking playbook. I'm not being sarcastic at all. On monetization, on content, on progression, on RedSec. This is just Warzone. It is the right strategy.
Okay. So for me, I mean, I guess that's super interesting. I thought there was a little bit of innovation in some of the gameplay and the visuals, but I mean, you're the expert.
Yes, but not at the kind of monetization business model perspective. They basically did nothing new and interesting. I mean, Battlefield Portal is interesting. We could talk about that. But this is mostly copying the playbook.
Yeah, and we talk about this all the time. Like, 80%, control V, like cut and paste is okay. And if there's, 10 or 20% innovation, that's okay too. But I did this last week. I don't know if you heard me, but I talked about some of the innovation in the marketing and the way that they did the betas and the way that they brought the game to life, I think has helped to amass excitement and keep people in. And so one of the things that I loved about this strategy was the ability to maybe retain players ahead of the launch. And so I don't know if you listened to the podcast it's called the Game Business Podcast. It was with Embark's Patrick Söderlund, who you know very well. So Patrick Söderlund was the former Battlefield leader at EA for 20 years. They also now make the finals, and they also now make Cress's favorite Arc Raiders, which is very, very interesting. And I hope you have that on your shooter radar as something to really look out for. So one of the things that I thought was super interesting in this podcast that Patrick talked about was when they were dissecting what went wrong with the finals and why that kind of took a dive after launch, maybe 3 months later, was the lack of the meaningful retention-based content. And so, I think to us, we're like, oh, well, that's a no-brainer. Like, what's your content after you launch? So back then, a few years ago, like we actually weren't thinking about that. People weren't thinking about like, oh, I have to make sure I've got new modes, new content as much as they are now. And so it looks like, in a sense, what we're talking about with the Battlefield team, they've really learned from those mistakes, right? That's why we're seeing, a freaking Battle Royale mode in Season 1 competing directly against COD and really pushing them because now they're trying to retain players ahead of that, launch, which is smart. The other insight that he said that I thought was super interesting that people should pay attention to is that he went to his content guys and is like, at first he's like, hey, I think we need to be 10x faster to compete with the China-based games, see Marvel Rivals or something like that. And then he went back a day later and he's like, you know what, I was wrong. We need to be 100x faster. And so how he talked about, to my earlier point about AI and our earlier point about AI, it sounds like they were using, machine learning and AI and pipelines to help with making content faster. And I know that you had said earlier, Phil, about like cost efficiency. I think that their AI for speed is something that people should be looking at, is how do I do things to feed the content monster that all players are coming to expect. So we're looking at a picture of Arc Raiders. By the way, I also love the retro sci-fi 70s looking. It kind of reminds me of Concord, to be honest. But I don't know if you saw that on Battlefield and COD banned the word Arc Raiders from their chat. And so Arc Raiders, again, marketing brilliance, went and did like a post on Twitter that was basically, we're still on track to release like asterisks, because that's what you look like when you get banned in the chat on October 30th. So this game is coming out, tomorrow. We record on Wednesday, October 29th. So check that out.
Yeah, well, let me ask you, Jen. Hold on. I think, Christopher Dring asked this during the podcast, or at least hinted at it. I just get shades of Titanfall between Call of Duty and Battlefield. And would you release this game now?
They talk about that. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
No, he lived through this, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he was the responsible. Yeah.
Yes.
He was solely responsible for the Battlefield, Titanfall bullshit Call of Duty. And yet he's doing it again.
Yeah, would you do this, Jen? What would you do with this?
I don't know if I would have. His answer was, well, we've looked at a bunch of things and we believe that we're in it for the long term and we believe, XYZ. If you are truly going to be, because they are premium, isn't Arc Raiders, doesn't it have a premium component to it?
Yeah, premium plus $40.
And so I think the challenge for them is all premium games need to launch in Q4 just because that's the momentum you have to get. Q4 is where you win. And I think they probably, as they were developing it, didn't realize that Battlefield would be doing as well as it's doing. And I think they probably had their sights said on COD.
Whoa. He has all the contacts that knew exactly what was happening with Battlefield. Fucking, I knew Battlefield was going to do well because of how many people were working on it. He certainly did. Like, he knew exactly what was happening, right? Like, and like, he must have less flexibility in terms of his publishing partner. What is it, Nexon? I can't even remember now.
It's Nexon.
Remember, they gave money too.
Yeah, they gave him money, and so he probably was contractually obligated to get it out by a certain time.
Yeah, he talked about flexibility. I mean, by the way, I don't think I've heard of a more lovely publisher that he wasn't pushed on any dates. Maybe it's this. And so maybe it's because it's an extraction shooter. It's PvPvE. Maybe that's why he thinks he can own that segment, because his thesis was that they found a way to make the extraction shooter a little bit more accessible, have a theme and style that was differentiated. They say that it's fun. PC Gamer says it went from under the radar to on my radar to darn near at the top of my most anticipated games of 2025, thanks to successful tech tests that made the coincidentally timed Marathon Alpha look bad. It's currently one of the most wishlisted games on Steam right now. More funny is that the Battlefield and COD betas are centering art raiders. Okay, that actually could be the best gift that they're getting.
Dude, that was the exact fucking argument they made about Titanfall. They're like, oh, it's a different market, different audience.
Okay,
it's
fair
like,
enough.
I mean, like, how can you make the same mistake twice? Like, I'm actually super bullish on Arc Raiders. I think it looks amazing, and I think it'll find its thing. But I would have released this like in February. You know, I wouldn't have.
I would have waited, especially on the marketing side. You know, as much as they're a medium-sized company, as much as Nexon is supporting it, you do not have the dollars to compete with the number 1 and 2 games. Can you imagine, like, the marketing spend on COD and Battlefield combined? It's got to be over $1 billion. And, poor little baby Arc Raiders, they're like, here's my $100 million marketing budget. Yay. I mean, kudos to them for getting the buzz that they are getting with the community. But you're right. Like, in a perfect world, if I was on the team, I would have been like, March looks really good, guys. Well, actually, remember, like, what about GTA?
Yeah, but that's in May.
Yeah,
like, I
that's
think
in May.
March would give them the window they need. February or March would give them the window they need.
February or March would have been better. But remember, everyone didn't know that GTA was moving. So all of these games, God, would have been in the GTA window. Isn't that crazy to think?